Dale Earnhardt Jr. was often asked what his father had taught him about racing, but the truth is, they never really talked about it. Dale Jr. raced in 159 events before his father came to see even one. His story is about more than racing. It's about a name that became a battlefield, where love, legacy, and personal pain collided. For years, Dale Jr. stayed silent about the emotional struggles he faced as the son of a NASCAR legend. But now, he's finally opening up about the hurt, the rejection, and the conflicts with his stepmother, Teresa. And the reality is much more painful than most people knew. Dale Jr. didn't simply grow into racing. He was born into it. From the day he was born in 1974, he was surrounded by the sounds and culture of NASCAR. His father, Dale Earnhardt Sr., wasn't just a driver. He was one of the greatest in history, known as the Intimidator. For Dale Jr., the racetrack wasn't just a place where cars raced. It was where legacies were created. Growing up as the son of a racing icon meant living under a heavy shadow. Every move he made was judged, every mistake noticed, and every success compared to his father's greatness. While the public watched the races, behind the scenes Dale Jr. lived a very different life. His childhood wasn't full of warm memories or carefree fun. It was strict, fast-paced, and emotionally distant. His parents divorced, and his mother, Brenda Jackson, worked hard to give him a sense of stability. But the pull of his father's world was strong, and eventually, Dale Jr. was drawn back into it, a world where racing came before everything else. When Dale Sr. remarried Teresa Houston, the family dynamic changed. Their home became more like a business center than a family house. It was all about racing, results, and reputation. Emotional conversations were rare. Love wasn't shown through words or affection, but through hard work and toughness. Dale Jr.'s sister, Kelly Earnhardt, said they had to learn to read between the lines. In their family, you proved love through how strong you were, not how open you could be. As a boy, Dale Jr. had to learn how to navigate this complex emotional world. He grew up understanding that driving was his way to be accepted. Each race he won was not just a victory on the track. It was a step toward getting noticed, getting love, and feeling like he belonged. But it was also a lonely journey. Dale Jr. often felt like he had to fight for even a small amount of recognition from his father. Dale Sr. was seen by the world as a hero, but at home, he was emotionally distant and rarely expressed pride or affection. To Dale Jr., it seemed like the only way to communicate with his father was through racing. Winning meant approval. Losing meant silence. This made their relationship complicated and full of unspoken feelings. Dale Jr. looked up to his father like a god, but at the same time, he felt unsure of where he stood. Did his father love him for who he was, or only when he succeeded? When Dale Jr. lived with Teresa, things didn't get easier. She wasn't cruel, but she didn't act like a mother either. Her main focus was protecting and growing the Earnhardt name and business. She managed Dale Earnhardt Incorporated like a strict company, not a family. Emotions weren't encouraged. What mattered most was control and reputation. Dale Jr. never called her mom, because that kind of connection just didn't exist. Their relationship was distant, more about business than bonding. There were no comforting hugs, no gentle moments. For Dale Jr., life in Teresa's house meant adjusting to a cold, structured environment where expectations were high, but emotional support was low. Everything was about keeping up appearances and preserving the legend of Dale Sr., but for Dale Jr., what he really needed was something simpler. Someone to talk to, someone to care about him beyond his racing performance. His journey wasn't just about becoming a great driver. It was about fighting to find his own identity, to be seen as more than just Dale Earnhardt's son. Through all the wins, losses, and heartbreak, Dale Jr. carried the emotional weight of growing up in a family built on speed, but often lacking in softness. Now, by speaking out, he's finally telling his side of the story. One of resilience, pain, and the search for real connection behind the roar of the engines. In Dale Jr.'s home, there weren't open arms or warm moments of comfort. Instead, there were high expectations. Firm, unbending ones. He was not only expected to live up to his legendary father's reputation, but also to meet the strict standards enforced by his stepmother, Teresa. Inside that house, the Earnhardt name was treated like something shiny and perfect, like polished chrome meant to impress the world. But behind that shine, things were cold and rigid. Family warmth was often pushed aside to make room for ambition and image. Love wasn't something you felt, it was something you earned by following the rules and keeping up appearances. For Dale Jr., home didn't feel like a safe place. It felt more like a constant test. His feelings were often pushed aside in favor of keeping the family's legacy intact. But even in that harsh environment, he started to build inner strength. Teresa's strict control didn't leave much room for kindness, but it helped Dale Jr. become determined and mentally tough. Surrounded by pressure and high expectations, he began to find his own way, one race at a time. He wasn't just racing against other drivers. He was racing against the weight of family legacy and the silence of a father who rarely showed affection. For most of his early life, Dale Jr. lived under the shadow of his father, a man who seemed larger than life. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was respected by millions, not because of what he said, but because of who he was: powerful, quiet, and always focused on winning. At home, his attention was usually on racing. Even though Dale Jr. shared his name, he often felt like just another person in the background, not truly seen. But things changed when Dale Jr. won his first race. He was only 17 at the time, still young and learning the intense world of racing. When he crossed that finish line first and the checkered flag waved for him, everything seemed to freeze. Most importantly, his father looked at him in a new way, not like a distant parent managing a family business, but like a real driver who had earned respect. Dale Jr. would later say, "It was like he finally saw me, not as his son, but as a driver." That moment was powerful for Dale Jr. He felt pride, but also sadness. The approval he had waited so long for was there, but it wasn't expressed with a hug or kind words. It was just a look, one that said, "You made it, but you still have more to prove." In his world, praise was rare and always tied to success. If you didn't win, you didn't get noticed. That quiet recognition meant a lot, but it also reminded Dale Jr. of how hard it was to feel truly loved by his father. Off the track, things didn't change. His father still didn't speak much, and the emotional gap between them stayed. Dale Jr. wanted more than just respect on the racetrack. He wanted his father's love, the kind that doesn't depend on trophies or fast laps. Even though he had that one moment of connection, the silence afterward reminded him that, in the Earnhardt world, love was often replaced by pressure to win, and anything less than victory felt like failure. Then came the day that changed everything. On February 18, 2001, fans around the world tuned in for the Daytona 500. It was one of the biggest races of the year, filled with energy, excitement, and high stakes. But nothing could have prepared anyone for what happened in those final seconds. On the last lap of the race, Dale Earnhardt Sr. crashed. The cheers turned into silence. The crowd held its breath. And when the news came, it hit like a shockwave. The intimidator, the legend, was gone. The man who had defined a generation of racing was suddenly gone. Right there, on the track that had been his domain. For Dale Jr., it wasn't just a headline or a tragic news story. It felt like the ground beneath him had shifted. His father's final race wasn't just about competition. It was about protection. On that last lap, Dale Sr. stayed behind, holding off the other drivers so Michael Waltrip and Dale Jr., both racing for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, could break away. It was a quiet but powerful act of love from a father who rarely expressed emotions with words. In his own way, he was clearing the way for his son's success. But when grief hit the Earnhardt family, it didn't come with tears in public or emotional tributes on live television. It was private and tightly controlled. Years of hardship had shaped the family into showing strength above all else. While the world saw a tough exterior, inside the family was dealing with a deep and painful loss. Dale Jr. tried to cope by focusing even harder on his career. He raced with everything he had, maybe trying to escape the silence his father left behind, or to prove that he was capable of carrying the Earnhardt name forward on his own. But even after every race and win, there was still an emptiness, a wound that never really healed. His father's absence echoed more loudly than the roar of any engine. When the racing stopped, the silence was overwhelming. It wasn't just the loss of a parent. It was the loss of a part of his identity. The world he knew had changed, and now Dale Jr. had to move forward, carrying both the weight of his father's legacy and the pain of his absence. As time passed, cracks began to form between Dale Jr. and Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, the company his father had built. What once felt like a shared legacy started to feel more like a battleground. Dale Jr. didn't want to be a figurehead. He wanted real ownership, a voice in the company that was built on his family's name. But Teresa Earnhardt, his stepmother and CEO of DEI, ran the business with strict control. She wasn't willing to give Dale Jr. or his sister Kelly a significant role or stake in the company, even though Dale Sr. had envisioned DEI as something to pass down to his children. In 2006, Teresa hired Max Siegel as the president of global operations for DEI, and later the team merged with Chip Ganassi Racing to become Earnhardt Ganassi Racing. But tensions between Teresa and Dale Jr. had already been building. The breaking point started as early as December 2003, when Dale Jr. revealed on his podcast, The Dale Jr. Download, that he hadn't been paid in 3 months. When he asked team executive Ty Norris about it, he was told to bring it up with Teresa. The conversation got heated. Dale Jr. yelled, "Y'all haven't paid me. You've broken my contract." Norris said it became bitter and emotional. Dale Jr. said what he needed to say and walked away. In 2008, Dale Jr. left DI. Things only got worse. One of the most memorable and hurtful parts of the split was when Teresa refused to let him take the number 8 car with him. To most people, a number might not mean much. But in racing, numbers carry deep meaning. The number 8 was part of Dale Jr.'s identity. It symbolized his early success, his connection to his father, and his personal brand. Teresa's refusal was more than a business decision. It sent a painful message: this legacy belongs to me, not you. Years later, in 2016, another serious conflict began. Dale Jr., now leading his own successful team, JR Motorsports, filed to trademark the Earnhardt name for his media and business ventures. Teresa didn't just disagree, she filed a legal objection, formally challenging his right to use his own last name. Her argument was that it could cause confusion with DEI trademarks. It wasn't just a legal battle. It felt deeply personal. Dale Jr., the son of the man who made that name famous, was now being told he didn't have the right to use it. Fans were shocked. The woman who had pushed him out of DI was now trying to take away the one thing that should have always been his identity. As the legal case unfolded, it revealed just how fractured the relationship had become. The documents were made public, and the tension between Dale Jr. and Teresa could no longer be hidden. This wasn't just about money or business, it was about legacy, respect, and a name that meant everything. The conflict between Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Teresa Earnhardt didn't stay hidden behind closed doors at DI. It wasn't handled quietly in a boardroom or discussed in private family meetings. It unfolded in public for everyone to witness. This wasn't just about a car number anymore. It was now about something deeper, the Earnhardt name itself. For NASCAR fans, it felt incredibly personal. They had spent years supporting the Earnhardt family, cheering for them, and connecting with their story. Seeing them battle over who had the right to use the name of Dale Earnhardt Sr., a racing legend, was heartbreaking. The reaction was intense and immediate. Online forums filled with outrage. Social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook were flooded with comments, hashtags, and emotional reactions. Many fans saw Teresa's legal opposition to Dale Jr.'s trademark application for the Earnhardt name as the ultimate betrayal. It wasn't that she was trying to protect the brand. People had always known she was business-focused. What hurt fans most was the belief that she had never truly accepted Dale Jr. as part of the family. This wasn't just a legal disagreement. It cut deep. And throughout it all, Teresa said nothing. She didn't explain her reasons. She didn't share her side. Her silence only made things worse. While she remained quiet, Dale Jr. took a different path. He didn't attack her publicly. He didn't ask for pity. Instead, he started telling his story, little by little. Through his podcast, The Dale Jr. Download, in interviews, and eventually in the Earnhardt documentary series, he opened up, not to seek revenge, but to finally release years of pain. He talked about being pushed aside at DEI, about the heartbreak of being denied the number 8 car, and about what it felt like to watch someone else control everything his father had left behind. And as he shared his truth, Teresa's silence became even louder. She didn't need to be accused of anything. Her absence spoke for itself. Fans started forming their own opinions. To them, it wasn't about who had the stronger legal claim. It was about who had truly respected Dale Sr.'s legacy with grace, honesty, and love, and who had locked that legacy behind a wall. Most fans sided with Dale Jr. He had faced grief, disappointment, and rejection, yet handled it with humility. Meanwhile, Teresa had kept a tight grip on the brand, but lost the emotional support of the community that once admired her. Over time, petitions began circulating to free the number 8, and Dale Jr.'s new merchandise outsold anything from DI. NASCAR commentators began questioning Teresa's leadership. In conversations across social media, podcasts, and racing communities, people started saying what Dale Jr. himself never publicly said, that Teresa had lost the trust of the very fanbase that had once embraced her. The issues between them weren't just business-related, they affected personal and emotional parts of life. One example was a piece of land Dale Sr. had owned, 100 acres of wooded property near the DEI shop, with a log cabin. Dale Jr. had dreamed of building his own home there, close to where his dad had once found peace. But when he asked Teresa if she would sell it to him, she said no. He respected her answer and bought land elsewhere, but the rejection was a painful reminder of how much things had changed. Another emotional blow came from the Deerhead shop, a place filled with Dale Sr.'s most personal items. Race suits, memorabilia, even Dale Jr. and Kelly's old school uniforms. It was like a time capsule of family memories. But since the day Dale Sr. died, the doors had been locked. Dale Jr. hasn't been allowed inside in over 20 years. According to him, no one has stepped foot in there since, and Teresa made sure of that. It was more than just being denied entry. It felt like being erased from the past. Growing up, Dale Jr. lived in the spotlight, surrounded by the sounds of racing. But at home, things were quiet. His father was often distant and rarely showed affection. One of the few moments of connection came when Dale Sr. watched his son win and gave him a look Dale Jr. never forgot. But those moments were rare. After his father's death, things became even harder. Teresa didn't just manage the business. She controlled everything about Dale Sr.'s legacy. She kept Dale Jr. out of decision-making, withheld contracts, and made him feel like an outsider in a company that bore his own family name. The final blow was the refusal to let him keep the number 8 car after leaving DI, a number that represented his racing identity, his connection to his father, and everything he had built. The message from Teresa was clear. This is no longer your family's empire, it's mine. In the documentary, Dale Jr. finally speaks freely. He says he's been quiet for too long, and now it's time to tell the truth. He doesn't want revenge. He just wants to share what really happened, not just on the racetrack, but within the family. His words reflect years of silence and emotional struggle. He never asked for a fight, only for a connection to his father, his legacy, and a chance to be part of the story they had built together. Instead, he was shut out. When Dale Sr. died, Dale Jr. hoped the family would come together. Instead, he lost more than a father. He lost his name, his team, and his place. And now, with nothing left to hide or protect but the truth, he finally speaks out. And it's more painful than anyone expected. If you were in Dale Jr.'s shoes, could you have stayed silent for so long? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.